Hey guys, welcome to Shorty's SuperCoach here. We're going to have another look at the Brisbane Lions here for Shorty's shortlist for 2016 of the SuperCoach, where we take a bit of a look at the players that aren't always your most obvious ones that you pick for the team, because everyone knows that, but perhaps some players who have dropped in value, going to be underpriced, maybe some rookies, and the occasional left field one, which is always not necessarily someone you're going to pick all the time, but certainly someone, if you like a real point of difference, I'm going to throw a few of those at you as well. But we're going to have a look at the Brisbane Lions, and we're going to start with, I think, potentially a man who is the biggest lock of 2016, and that's Tom Rockliff. I mean, could it be out of worse or more interrupted 2015? I don't think so. I mean, I'm not even sure how many ribs he has left, because he just copped it left, right and centre. Start of the year well. Round one, he's flying. He's on 71 points, 50% game time. Bang, he's injured. And that was an injury that, he seemed to carry for much of the year. And he pushed very hard to get back. And for the sake of the team, really, got back quicker than many expected. But again, in round five, it happened early. I think he played 8% game time and he scored 0 points. So, look, over the first 5 games that he played, he didn't get over 20 touches, which is extremely rare for Rockliff, who we know is a ball magnet, averaged 63.2. But look, once he started to get going and seemingly got over those nagging injuries, despite the fact we thought he was battling through something, he still ended the year with, his last 11 games, 119.5. And his 2015 average of 101.9, take those injury games out that I mentioned, average is 111.3, so there is no question on his ability to score. He finds the pill at will, just has no doubts about that. Tackles, he had double-figure tackles on 5 occasions last year, 45 touches against the Hawks, so he does against the best. And what I love most about him is it doesn't matter how well the Lions play. He, more often than not, will deliver. He wins his own ball, contested ball king, tackles, as I said. And I feel as if he can get on top of those injuries, which, let's face it, weren't your recurring ones. They were more those freakish ones like breaking a rib. It doesn't happen often. Yes, it happened a couple of times to him because he potentially rushed back, but he will be underpriced, no doubt. I mean, 101.9 he averaged. The price that's going to be alongside him makes him just a tantalising prospect for next year, and will be a man that I'll be just locking away, because I think, when him and Beams are playing at their best, who do you send the tag to? Brisbane's midfield's starting to look quite nice. I think it could, certainly be one of the better ones, or at least one of the more improved ones, if they can all get on the park. So, Tom Rockliff definitely will be on many sides come next year. Another man who's a bit more left field, but one of my favourites, certainly was as a Cats man when he was with us, was Alan Christensen. He too had a shocking run with injuries last year, as do most of these guys actually, but he couldn't get on the park. I mean, he didn't have a great pre-season at all, had back surgery, just could never get going, and he played like a man who couldn't get going. I mean, his fitness was questioned at times, and that is a problem with him. At Geelong at one point, he was definitely told in no uncertain terms that you're not fit enough and you need to get fitter. And I think he's got absolute talent to burn. We know that. I mean, it's just a matter of him getting on the park and delivering. I really feel like if he can, he's probably a player you would almost consider if he gets that forward line dual position. I'm not sure if he will, but the fact is he can definitely average. I mean, he averaged 92.8 in 2013. Last year was 86.5. But look, he ended in the last 8 games averaging 96.8. You feel like he started slow with a poor pre-season, struggled at times to really get going, but in that back half of the year, certainly late, 96.8, you would definitely take that most times for a forward line player. I'm not 100% sure if he's going to have that dual position ability for us next year, but if he does, he's a man I would definitely think about. The big question I'd put over is midfield time. Is he going to get enough? Because while Brisbane may not be making the top 8 by any means, I do feel like their midfield is certainly their strong point. They've recruited well there, and it's looking quite good. Christensen's a player who I think can play midfield, but at times has found himself as, the group with Zorko and Green, but they can run through the midfield at times, but he often gets put in that conversation of a half-forward flanker, but he's no doubt better than that, and I feel if he gets the opportunity, which the pre-season will show, definitely a man that you got to look at. So, and he'll be priced pretty low for a player of his ability and experience too. So, definitely one to watch. Another one to watch as well is Pearce Hanley. 2013 averaged 95.7, 2014 was a big one, 103.8, and last year averaged 86.5. So he's again going to be underpriced due to injury again. He was subbed off a lot of times, had hamstring problems, I think he had a hip surgery, so it just didn't go well for him at all. He couldn't string it together. 2 games he had less than 40% game time, so an injury affected score. The problem is he's only a midfield for us. I was hoping, or maybe just praying, that he might get that defender status that he has had at times. Can you pick him as a midfield only? It'd be a pretty brave man. And, you know, I was spewing late in the year. In his final round, he scored 146, highlighting how well he can score. But by the same token, I think his average would have fallen or stayed around that 82 mark if he just scored about an 80 or a 90 I was looking at before. So he busted out the big ton, no doubt, which shows his ability. One of Brisbane's most important players. He is such a key playmaker, and that's potentially why when he rolls off that half-back flank, I was maybe hoping that he could get that status, but he has made himself into more of a midfield of times. But if you're feeling brave and you want to go a bit different, I mean, 86.5 is definitely under the odds for him, and if he has, again, a lot all depends on the pre-season, he probably has the ability to go 105 plus. Again, as I was touching on with Rory Sloane in the Adelaide preview, is that enough for a midfielder? Probably not, but if you're really keen and going different, he may be someone you have a look at. So there are a few players of the more experienced variety for the Lions. We'll have a look at one rookie in particular, because it's always tough to see rookies at the moment, because you just got to see how they play pre-season. But it's always interesting because those first rounders, the ones that play the most, they've always got a slightly larger price tag. But this man, he doesn't, because he's an academy player. Ben Keys, drafted at pick 24, and potentially one of the best pickups, of course, for the Brisbane Lions, but in SuperCoach terms and fantasy terms, being out of that first round, I mean, his price tag will be just like everyone else's on that normal draft pick price of, you know, around that 120 grand mark, which is just fantastic for us. A few numbers: 185 centimetres, 82 kilos. TEC Cup, he averaged 34 touches. Under 18 champs, 29 touches. Touted as an inside and outside midfielder, so he can definitely win his own ball. That's one of his biggest things. He's a good athlete as well, good runner. He's not the quickest, that's the question on him, that he's, you know, more of your inside mid. And that brings me to the main query with him is, you know, as I said, Brisbane's midfield is quite strong. I've just named 3 of them before that are going to get more game time than they did last year. Jared Jansen, another cat, ex-cat that I highly like and probably would have featured heavily in this segment if it weren't for the fact that Brisbane's midfield does back quite deep. And it means these guys like Ben Keys, Jansen, Reece Matheson is another one who I think potentially in other teams, maybe weaker midfielders, definitely will get games, and they still may, but you really need guaranteed games. And I think Keys is one man who can potentially do it. I think he's ready for AFL footy. Certainly what I've seen on the highlights and everything I've read, he was very, very highly touted player. So he's one to keep an eye on, and potentially could get a mid-forward status for his, you know, dual ability. Would be very handy to have him in the forward line. So he's definitely one to keep an eye on, I feel. Again, it's that midfield time. Is he going to be able to fight his way into the Brisbane team? If he does, he's probably going to find himself in a half-forward flank, but main thing is, if he can be playing at that price, he'll be an absolute steal. So, one to keep an eye on, no doubt. And that rounds out the Brisbane preview for now. As I say in most of them, it's early days. I'm just having a look. I mean, you don't have to be buying the prospectus to know everything, but I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on it. And, you know, it's only December at the moment, so getting in there nice and early, having a look at all the clubs, just a few names to keep on your radar, and not the obvious ones, because any monkey can have a look at the obvious guys. He averaged 110 plus, I'll just pick him. But we're having a look a bit deeper, doing the maths, injury games aside, what they averaged, etc., and trying to find a bit of value there for you to at least have a look at. Put them early on your radar so you can track their pre-seasons. But that's enough for me. We'll have a look for Carlton next time around, but definitely subscribe. Comment if you got any other Brisbane players that I've missed and you feel are definitely on your radar at the moment. Give it a like, give it a share, and definitely keep clicking back for my other videos. We'll be previewing every club as 2016 gets closer. Cheers, guys.